Hey guys, what's going on? Trey Lewellen here, another episode of the wonderful Kommerce Kings, and I have Mr. James. James, and I don't want to butcher it, it's Schramko, right? Schramko?
Yeah, you did butcher it. It's Schramko.
Schramko! There we go. James Schramko. Okay, so you are a business coach, a leader, teaching people like Ezra Firestone, probably some other pretty high big rigs in the industry. But your biggest thing is coaching business, correct?
Yeah, that's my primary source of income at the moment is helping other businesses improve their businesses.
I love it. So how did you get into that?
Well, before I was online, I was a general manager of a Mercedes-Benz dealership. So I learned a lot about business, running a real business. And, anyone with an e-commerce store can probably relate to the same sort of nightmares of having physical inventory, requiring space, delivery logistics, finance. And then if your thing happens to need regular servicing, there's that element too. And then there's replacement parts. So It's like a huge store, an actual store with lots of staff in a physical location. So I learned so many lessons running that the online thing was kind of a bit easier for me in a way. It was like a much broader marketplace with people coming into it who had come from all different directions. I mean, you got guys making e-products on how to build a potato gun from their dormitory room. They're coming into it from that avenue, not running a real business. So they've had to learn all these tough lessons from people like me, or they just have to make the mistakes and put a lot of time into it to get there.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so then how long have you been doing that? How long have you been doing business coaching?
I've been doing it for about a decade, just over. I started online in 2005, so that's 13 years. It took me 2.5 years to replace my income, which was about $300,000. And then I quit my job. It's been a decade now of growing my own businesses and helping others. But in that last 10 years, I've built and sold an SEO business. We ran that for 7 years, started it from scratch. I had a nice payday when I sold that out. I also
What'd you sell that for?
I'm not going to disclose the amount, but
oh, come on!
Sorry, private arrangement.
Was it at least $5 million?
It wasn't at least $5 million. I wish it was.
Okay.
It was doing over $1 million a year, and it had a good profit margin. So you can probably work out on your usual sort of profit multiples formula what it might have been worth. Sold my website development business, and I kept.
How many people did you have doing the website development?
Had 10 people in that team, and sold that to my web developer friend who had no people in his team. It was kind of funny because, I was coaching him and I realized I'm making more profit selling websites than the guy who knows how to build one, and I don't know how to build a website. And I said, isn't this remarkable? So imagine what you could do if you actually had my team of 10 developers and you start running the business instead of building the websites. And so he took that business over, which was great. And I just kept a small team, and we've been building our own little businesses on the side as we coach people in the meantime. And of course, I published a book, which was kind of a summary of things that I'd learned that I wanted my kids to know. And I really like the book / Audible thing. I think that's very leveraged, and I'd like to do more of those.
Awesome. So let's go back to you built and sold the business, and that was an SEO website?
Yeah, so I had this little SEO website, and I was selling services to my own clients. And
did you do
a lot of the e-commerce customers, actually.
So how did you sell it? Like, how did you figure out how for like someone to buy it?
I found the person who would pay the most for it, and that is the customer who was buying all the supply. In the end there, I had a student, he was sitting in the audience when I spoke at Dubai, and he was just about to be deported because he didn't have a job. And he came on board with me, and I coached him to sell to local businesses. This was quite some time ago now. This is 2009. Yeah. So, a lot of people are talking about selling to local businesses in the last few years, but I've been doing that for about 13 years, 12 years actually. And he followed what I did, and he was going so well that he started buying more and more of our supply. And in the end, he was responsible for about 60% of our supply. I had this team of 38 people. And I said to him, as his coach, you either have to replace us and vertically integrate, or you could buy my business and 50% of what you're spending could fund the business because, it's profit margin. And he said, yeah, that makes sense. So we came to an arrangement and we were able to make that sale. And from my perspective, I guess after 7 years, I'd done enough SEO, and I felt that the business was at a big risk of having this one customer leave, and then we'd have to scramble to get other customers. So it got to a point where I had this big fish customer, and it just worked out really well for everybody.
That's pretty cool. So basically, how long did it take you to build that business?
It kind of got built on the side because, when I started with one or two customers about 10 years ago doing this SEO service for someone else other than me, that was just me. And then I got a couple of team members, and then we were going well with that. And then I contracted out to a company in India. They actually approached me when I was speaking in New Zealand, and I took on their supply, and we grew that. It just exploded. But I wasn't happy with the quality and the consistency of the service. So I brought that in-house to my own team who are in the Philippines. And we went from one team member with an apprentice to 38 team members within 6 months. It just went off. And the quality was fantastic. The product was excellent. And to this day, it's still one of the great SEO suppliers when most of them have just crumbled to the side. It was built strong, and we had a secret that most people don't have in their business. And big companies have this, especially the biggest companies, especially companies like Google, but most small operators don't have this, and it's research and development. If you are not spending time and energy figuring out where things are about to be, then you could just steer straight off a cliff with no warning. And most people get caught out by this.
R&D, baby. You got it going on. Okay. So that's amazing because you quit your job. You're making, I think you said $2,500 a month, right?
No, back then I was making 25 grand a month.
Oh, 25 grand a month as a GM?
Yeah, I was on about $300,000 a year. And so I had to replace that income if I wanted to quit my job because I had, mortgages and cost of living in Sydney is not cheap.
No. So that was quite the task.
It was quite the task, and it was very, very frustrating, especially in the beginning. It took me, I think, 9 months to make any money online, and it was like $49.25 when I did. And then I took that one product and I just kept selling it. And then I stacked that to 3 or 4 sales, and then 5, and then 10. And I just kept going. And then the final pull the grenade sort of maneuver was to sign up 2 customers on a services arrangement where I would do their online marketing. And that was for about $5,500 each. So that got me up to my 300K, and then I quit. And after that, it was easy without having to spend 70 hours working on someone else's business. So I was able to get my business up and running to 7 figures pretty quickly.
Sure.
And I've actually made 6 figures a month for the last 10 years straight. Never had a dip.
That's amazing. So going back to the GM piece where you're a general manager making 300 grand, you got this other business that you're making 300 grand. So now realistically you're making 600 grand. So to quit,
it is a problem.
You go back down.
Technically, that was the big risk. Luckily I was making a surplus rather than just breaking even.
Good.
But I very quickly got back up. I got my first 6-figure month shortly after quitting. I think the second month after quitting, and I was doing some pretty hardcore CPA advertising. Back then,
wow,
I was spending about 3 or 4 grand a day on ads, driving traffic through 7 Search and AdBright and Google. I was one of the first Facebook advertisers, and doing all sorts of paid traffic, which was kind of hair trigger stuff. I had to check it every day at 2:00 and see if I made or lost money. It was high stakes. In fact, when I look back, I think that was pretty ballsy.
Yeah, no, it is. It's amazing. Okay. So you make all this income, you got all this cash flowing coming in, you're making 7 figures. What do you do with the cash? What's the secret, James' secret for the cash?
I've only more recently been super interested in that. if you have a family and you live in somewhere like Sydney, it's not cheap. So some of your cash is going to go on living expenses. Sure. I have 4 kids. The average home price in Sydney is over $1 million now, just for perspective. So I know some people watch this from their house in wherever near some beautiful lake for $150,000. That's just the stuff of dreams over here. Everything's expensive, even cars. But I like to acquire property. I like to take it out of my business. My business doesn't need cash, which is very fortunate. I don't have stock. So unlike an e-commerce business where they're always scraping to make the next pallet, I can take the money out of the business and I can put it into things like property and some share portfolios, that sort of stuff. But I'm pretty conservative. I don't have a huge Bitcoin portfolio or anything crazy. I do have a stack of domains. I have a few premium domains and quite a lot of surfboards.
So do you currently have properties that you own or in portfolio?
Yes, I do.
And so do you have like management over the properties or do you manage the properties?
No, I don't let them out even. I just keep them and live in them. Most of them.
Oh, you don't even rent out the properties?
No.
Oh, so you just have multiple properties building as an asset that you have like secondary properties?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool. So then why do you do that?
No, I suppose because I can. I think long term you still own the property. I don't want other people living in it, and I don't think you get a huge yield doing the Airbnb or leasing it out. I mean, it's compromise. I like living in my house here. I like living in my house in the Philippines.
That's cool.
And there are other ones underway. So I think that's it's satisfying actually to feel like you've actually built something. And, with enough kids, I'm sure over time there'll be things that there'll be opportunities for me to either close down a place or to sell it and upgrade or whatever. But that's just one part of it. I do like to keep cash as well at the moment, especially.
Why do you say that?
Because I think there's a bit of instability happening. You've got a presidential election over there. We have a hot housing market in Australia. There's a very good chance there'll be some stormy weather coming up. And I saw this 10 years ago, 11 years ago, last time around. There was a big cooling off. So I don't mind having a bit of cash sitting around. And I'm not really fussed. I don't care if it makes 1 or 2%. My energy is best spent building my business where I can make a good amount of profit.
Yep.
And also, because I'm in a different country and charging US dollars, I do get a little bit of price transfer. So when the rates move around, I'm able to move money between the different currencies and to pick up an advantage. So I guess if you like, I do a little bit of Forex.
You do a little Forex?
Yeah.
Okay. You got your hand in a couple of, let's see, $1 million just made me $100,000, and there goes another. It's pretty wild how that works. It literally
does, yeah. If you have $1 million sitting in your bank account and the rates move 5 or 10%, that really is $50,000 or $100,000, and then you can time your transfers.
Yeah, that's pretty. Do you know what's the? I don't know much about Forex. So is there a limit of how much you can transfer?
No, the way there's a few different ways you can do it. You can either use some trading platform and trade it. You can use options and futures and all that. But you could literally just have money sitting in a bank in one currency, and then you can have it transferred to the other. You can call up a broker and you can agree on a rate, and then they'll place the order and it switches into the other currency.
Wow. And just like that.
Just like that. Literally, and they can do it on the phone, and they use voice recognition software. So no PIN number or password. You could literally just call up like those old movies in the 80s where they call up and they buy or sell. You can say, I want to sell US dollars and buy Australian dollars, and then you can negotiate a rate, and then the order is placed and it's done.
Wow. That's pretty cool. All right. That's awesome. I don't know much about that, but it sounds fun. And so are you keeping cash then to buy properties or do the Forex trading, or just to hold cash just in case everything destroys and you're like, well, at least we're good for 2 years?
Yeah, actually, I'd rather be good for the rest of my life. So a key to that is not generating a huge amount of debt.
Yeah.
I don't really do debt. And so if you have a good surplus, you can last a long time. If you do have debt, a good place to put your cash is to offset your debt, to pay off any kind of non-tax deductible debt. And definitely never, ever buy stuff just because you get a tax deduction. Like a lot of people, especially in the US culture, they rent everything and the accountant says you got to spend more money to get a tax deduction. Well, sometimes it's okay just to pay a little bit of tax and just to actually have some cash there and no debt hanging over your head as well. That's an alternative way to do it.
Yeah. It's when you find out as an entrepreneur, it's actually good to pay the government.
Well, we still need roads and hospitals and that at least in our country, all that stuff's really good. And so I know that my tax dollar's going somewhere. Yeah.
I'm in the reference of, most Americans think that it's a good thing when the government owes you money. That means you made no money. I want to pay the government crap tons of money because that means I made crap tons of money. Right.
Yeah, that's right. If you're paying tax, it means you've made a profit somewhere along the way, hopefully. So
now it does suck writing those big checks, I will say.
It sucks writing the checks, but it's better than waiting in a food handout line for your next meal, from the homeless. So I'd rather be in a position of responsibility than in need.
Yeah. What keeps you motivated? Like
surfing, 100%. It drives me.
And you said you had a surfing business.
Yeah, I've got a business we've been building in the background. It's our what we call an infinity project, and that is if you have a team and you can't keep them busy with your day-to-day stuff, you can build a fun project on the side, like a skunk works. Like if you had an e-commerce store and you got this great team, you could build a second store just for fun to let the team work on it. And I let the team have free reign on this thing. And we've built it up into quite a big content site now. And we get ad revenue from publishing. And I like, at Christmas time, I like to redistribute that ad revenue back to the team and say, here you go, here's something nice. And over time though, this asset will be able to be sold to someone in that market as we see the market expand dramatically in the next 5 to 6 years.
Does the team know that they're going to be getting the ad spend, or is that always like a surprise?
I think it's a surprise, even though I did it last year and this year, so I will be wary that I'm creating a precedent.
Yeah.
But I would reserve the right to change it. It's the amount that we're distributing is significantly increasing.
Sure.
And now, especially as we figure out which ad platforms work well for us and where the opportunities. But as soon as we start monetizing the back end with products and affiliate things, then I suspect it's not going to be viable to do that.
Yeah, you're just like, here's $1 million for you. Here's $1 million for you.
Yeah, it might be 1 million pesos, but
$1 million pesos. Hey, okay, 1 million pesos, $1 million.
It's still 25 grand, 1 million pesos.
Yeah, Forex that thing. You know what? Rock and roll. That'll keep anybody good around. All right, so you park your cash there. Dude, what's like an amazing victory for you? Like looking back over the last 10, maybe 15 years, maybe it's just yesterday. I don't know. What's been a massive just victory for you?
For me, it's probably the small things.
Yeah, love
like
that.
Yesterday, I had a coffee, a glass of water, I put on my board shorts, and I walked down to the beach here, and I was out there on Monday. The water was crystal clear. There was no wind. I could see every grain of sand on the bottom. The waves were perfect. And I was having a chat to a friend of mine, and I was riding a surfboard that I just got last week, and it's amazing. It's one of the best built boards I've ever had. It's beautiful. It's like this orangey color, like a vitamin C tablet. Mm-hmm. And it's got these channels in it. And I caught the light on the channels and it reflected back. And it was like looking at an art poster. It was just, I thought, this is magic. And so for me, it's not having to put on my suit and tie and get in the car and drive off somewhere for the next 10 hours and dredge it out. I mean, I feel like I'm a lucky one who escaped. So for me, it's just the simple point of having having free reign of my schedule and working things the way that I want them to work. And that's what living is about for me at this point in my life.
I love that. That's amazing, dude. Let's see. What else we got? Well, I think you just pretty much described freedom. Ooh, here we go. This is one of my favorites. I love going through these. So, okay. So do you feel like you found your purpose?
I'm not sure I know what I want to be when I grow up, Troy.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting closer. I think publishing the book helped me in that process to distill a lot of some of my thoughts. See, my challenge is I collect information from so many places and I soak it up like a sponge and then I implement it. I've got so much content. It's hard for me to get it from my head into a book. God bless Kelly Exeter, the lady who helps me do that. But I have the opposite problem of most people. Some people, she's trying to drag the information out. Me, I've just got so much of it that I could drown her in it. And so I've got the next 10 books, penciled out on a piece of paper here, and I just have to work my way through getting them out. So I think that's my purpose, will be to lay this information down in a way that it can be leveraged by people in the future and use. I want people to use it for good, and I want people to have the same options on a Monday morning that I have.
Yeah. What's the first book about?
The first book's called Work Less, Make More. That's the old cover.
Oh, there we go.
And it's literally about what I'm describing, that you don't have to do it the way that you've been, the script you've been handed by society is just not, it's not the only way. You don't have to go to school and then university and then get a job and pay off your mortgage and work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's just chuck it out the window and rewrite it. And the book really helps people with finding the leverage points. The core of it is making sure you get paid really well for every hour that you work, full stop, whether that's your business or someone else. If you want to increase your effective hourly rate, then the book gives an action plan on the steps on how you would actually do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And so that's published, right? That's already out?
Published. It's actually been out for about a year. And interestingly, the sales are increasing. So I think it's having a bit of a snowball effect. And it's on Audible as well, which is important because a lot of my audience listen to podcasts that I've been publishing for quite some time.
So I want to finish up by asking you one other question, and then we'll give you like your links and stuff so people can find you and get the book as well.
Sure.
But the big one is, 20 years ago. So how old would you have been? Like 15?
I wish I would have been 27.
27. Okay. So just think for a minute, like what you're doing at the age of 27. I know what I was doing. At the age of 27, you meet yourself now, right? You get to see yourself. And you can think about this, but what would you tell yourself at 27 now that you're on a Monday surfing, right? And not working.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have believed myself then because I was very serious. At 27, I was pretty much running a sales team of 21 people in a Mercedes dealership. I was king of the world in my own domain. And they're very good at making you feel like that is the whole universe and there's nothing outside that. And also, there wasn't really much happening in terms of the internet back then. So it's hard to see the possible opportunity. I would have told myself, just go all in on the internet, get the good domains and build out your information. I also would have helped myself take better notes. I've got a lot of notes, a lot of information, but I would have built a system for it, a better system for it. And that would have helped me, I think, dredge through. The hardest part for me about writing the book was the research phase of pulling all my notes from all the places they were at.
Yes.
And I only discovered a better system for that 10 years ago, which I call the life sheet, which is putting everything in one spreadsheet. But that would have helped me. I have to do forensic analysis on my old self to discover stuff. And I was packing 5 years into one back then. I've read like 3,000 books, and I was a voracious learner and implementer. So I was just moving at a lightning pace. I really was at the top of my game in the environment that I was in. So very driven and very serious. And I had to be, because I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. At that stage, I'd already had 2 kids and a third one coming.
At 27?
Yeah. I the first, my oldest kid is 23, and the next one's 21, and then the next one's 18. So he wasn't around yet, but he was coming. And then the next one again, he's now 16.
So your oldest son is 4 years away from that day.
Yep.
That you met your
Which
son.
is why I wrote a book for my kids, to say, listen, if there's anything, I mean, if I could have slipped myself the book, that would have been handy. It's like, here's what you're going to learn over the next 20 years in a book. That would be great.
I love that. All right. So how do these guys find you? And then we're going to go behind the scenes.
Sure. Superfastbusiness.com. That's going to get you in the right direction.
Super fast. And you got content. You got all kinds of good stuff on there.
There's a podcast. You know, we've got over 600 episodes now.
Holy cow. That's a lot of episodes.
That is a lot.
Which one's the best episode? What's the top 3 episodes they need to listen to?
Probably the one I like was with this guy called Nam Baldwin, and it was a mindset exercise. He coaches the world champion surfers. He gave this acronym called NEAT, which was when you're suffering a setback or something really difficult. N stands for normal. It's just normal. E is expect it. These things are going to happen. A is accept it and just move past it. And then T is tidy up. Just do the mental reconciliation to make it justified or dealt with, and then move forward. You know, it's like if you have an e-commerce store and you just discover that your supplement palette has the wrong pills in it, or that the ingredients aren't what you specified, or that the scooter doesn't comply to the law anymore, or whatever. That these things are going to happen. And that was just such a powerful exercise. You know, that stands way above the others for me. But I think the episode that's going to resonate with people is going to be depending on what their biggest challenge is right now. So we actually created this list all page. When people click on our podcast tab, it actually lists every podcast that I've ever done on one page, because I'm always using that. I use the Command F to find the episode that I'm trying to point someone to. It's like this Rolodex of back content. The first one I ever did was with John Carlton, the copywriter. Yeah. So, you know, that was me with a little dictaphone in a hotel room, you know, laying down the tracks for my first podcast.
Laying down the tracks.
Down 2009, old school.
600 people interview is impressive.
Well, not all of them are interviews, but if you stacked my other podcasts together, I reckon you'd get close to 1,000. You know, not including the guest ones. And you would have thought by this stage I'd be far better and have got my script sorted out, but I'm pretty organic.
Hey, those are some of the best podcasts, are the organic ones. You don't have to agree. All right. I know you got time to jet, so we got to go behind the scenes real quick because I got some more good information to pull from you.
Sure.
All right. So tell these guys goodbye, and we'll see everybody else behind the scenes.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.